is derived from the leaves of the coca plant. When cocaine enters the body, it has a strong effect on body functions by acting as an irritant on the brain. Large overdose of cocaine causes convulsions, then death. Cocaine causes unusual and often unpredictable feelings and actions. In his ignorance, Marty took that dare, little knowing the eventual horror that lay in the deadly white powder.
Marty, have you seen the pinking shears I bought last week? Can't seem to find them anywhere. Marty, you don't see right. I'm worried about you. There's something wrong. I'm going to take you down to Dr. Richard this afternoon for a checkup.
No, I'm all right.
As his body gradually built up intolerance, he needed more and more of the drug. Cocaine causes unusual and often unpredictable feelings.
Good evening, everybody. Bridge Sky here. You are listening to K.I.S.S Recovery 101. You're going to fade out the music. Love that song. Okay. So welcome. If this is your first time listening, K.I.S.S is a fun acronym. Keep it simple, stupid. And Recovery 101 just means the basics. So whatever we discuss, whatever topic, we're just going to keep it real simple and to the basics because I think there's a lot of great information out there. But I just remember early in my recovery, for many years, it was way above my head. And I didn't have the ability to ask questions, and so it went in one ear and out the other. So anyway, tonight I'm super excited. My guest is very much, I consider, a friend, even though we don't get to talk much or see each other much. We just actually added each other on Facebook, I think. I sent you a request. So that will make us officially friends. But this is a person I very much respect and worked with, and he's one of those people that show up and walks the walk, and very humble, doesn't even need to talk any talks. He just does. And definitely a person that I would trust and would call an inner circle person. Okay, so this is a live show for a reason, listeners. If you're listening, I encourage you to ask questions, share your viewpoints, your insights, comment. Like, that's the whole point. Otherwise, I could do the recorded stuff, and I just feel like it wouldn't be as authentic. So anyways, I'm rambling. So guest, would you mind introducing yourself? And then I would like you, now everybody read the post maybe, or maybe didn't. We'll go ahead and reread it, but might have an idea of who you are. You have many hats that you wear, but go ahead and introduce yourself. Maybe share a little bit about what you're doing, and just, recovery, how you show up.
So my name is Eric. I'm a person in long-term recovery, and where I'm at today is a lot different than where I was almost 2 years ago. One, I had the great honor of becoming a certified peer recovery specialist, but I also had the opportunity for a journey in sober living, and that has turned into just something special. I got very involved in the houses, my life, which turned into service work, which turned into how to make sober living better. And through for me, the grace of God, I was got an opportunity to be the elected resident advisory council chair for sober living, which we are trying to put together. So if people do have questions about that, feel free to put that in there. I've also taken a lot of courses to help my journey in recovery living. One is I've taken a de-escalation course, harm reduction, and also another one for PTSD, trauma, and addiction, as I find that through the sober living journey, we all suffer from that. But my true passion has become how do we make it better? But not necessarily, on the outside and all that, but how do we give everyone in recovery the best opportunity for sober housing so that we all have a fair shot at recovery? And I just find everything I do, surrounds myself around just excellent people like Bridge and some other many other peer recovery specialists in the field. And it's a place that I finally feel like I fit. I understand the scars of my past and how they can help everybody through recovery living today. So that's a little bit, and I guess as we talk some more, you'll get to know me a little better too.
Thanks, Eric. And yes, I would absolutely recommend anybody that does any kind of service or wants to give back to at least take that 1 week training, because it opens your mind into maybe things, for me, things I felt like I already believed in or myself understood, and just with the certain groups that I was attending meetings or one certain path, they didn't agree with. So when I went to this training, I realized there's many other paths and many other beliefs, and it just made me feel so validated, especially with my very long journey of lived experience. Okay, so the post, if you didn't get a chance to read it, we're going to be talking about, yes, the new recovery language is they want to refer, instead of saying sober houses or sober housing, it's recovery residences, which I really like. Now, there's some new terms in the recovery language that are a little, I don't know, feel unnecessary or confusing, but I won't point those out. But this one I like, recovery residence. It sounds already so much more positive. I like the word recovery versus sober or clean. And but yes, there are good ones out there, and you help facilitate one, correct? Or four, correct? Do you want to talk a little bit about that before I read the post? Because I think that you do have, the good, what looks good, but I also know there's lots of bad ones. And MASH or no MASH, I'm trying to figure out how it's possible. So do you want to talk about the houses that you are part of?
Yeah, so I appreciate the emotion behind that, Bridge, because that's kind of how I am about recovery housing, I call it. Anyone who asks me, I always have to throw in sober living so they know what I'm talking about, because sometimes they think it's different. And it really isn't. Recovery housing is recovering all those things that we've lost. Not the material stuff, but the really important things in our life that we work so hard to get to. And so I actually started out managing one house, and I just started to get a passion. I saw miracles, and I use that word all the time. I saw guys come in who were hopeless and nowhere else to turn to and needed a friend, and a friend in recovery, not a manager in recovery, but a friend in the house. And so we start to talk and learn about each other, and that just started to evolve into where house became exactly, some of us may not go to meetings or do the 12 steps, or we do smart recovery. There's just so many pathways, and that's the greatest part of recovery. But there are some traditions that are out there through AA and NA that you may not have to go follow and live by, but they make sense. And one is unity, and we try to all be on the same page. We try to help each other, hold each other accountable. And I hate the word, and I really hate these two words. When you move in here, we have rules and expectations, because I never followed rules. That put me in jail and some other places. And expectations, I couldn't live up to my own, let alone somebody else's. So I like to use the word guidelines. We have guidelines we live by in the house, and those guidelines sometimes could include 2 meetings a week, getting a sponsor, having a spiritual service. I know, don't think church right away in your head. It's a pathway for us. Spiritual service can be whatever it is that's going to fill that hole. And as this journey went through and we saw miracles coming out the door, the owners approached me and my responsibilities got a little more, where I was able to do some outreach, talk to some treatment centers and other people, even at places like Minnesota Recovery Connection or other places that knew not a whole lot about recovery housing, and educate them on maybe what's different, what's going on. And that has evolved even more where now I meet weekly with all the managers so that we're all on the same page. And not just on the same page with rules, but on the same page with how we care for and become friends and balance the two, but concentrate on recovery and give everyone that best opportunity for recovery.
Well said. Well said. Okay, so why do so many sober houses fail? What is really being done to fill in the cracks to keep people in recovery, especially newly in recovery or fresh out of treatment, safe in their environment? What are the biggest problems that everyone knows about, but no one is openly talking about? So M.A.S.H, Minnesota Association of Sober Housing, attempts to form a unified voice for owners of sober houses in situations where a public voice became necessary. But I have to ask, Eric, what if the owners are the issue? Okay, so I've heard all the horror stories. Okay, and not only I've walked into a couple houses, I had to go in myself to see what they were talking about. And I feel like there's good owners, and then there's the bad ones that are taking advantage of, I say, vulnerable people. Okay, so a lot of times, for like myself, I lost everything and everybody in my effing life. Okay, and I can't even imagine. Like, I just barely held on to my place of living, so I didn't have to go to one of these houses. But I can't imagine, feeling good, getting that 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, getting more clear-minded, feeling positive, and walking into a situation where the owner's all about the money. That's all they care about. And they're ripping you off, like they might cover some things initially, but they're taking away all kinds of. So one house, for example, they were charging this poor guy, like, he was $750 to $900 for a bed that he shared in a small room with 5 other fellas. Like, for me, I mean, yes, and I get that you should want to do whatever you got to do, you're going to do it to get your recovery. But then you go, first of all, it sets me up to feel like I'm being taken advantage of. And then, luckily there's like Pink Cloud, there's other organizations that are trying to like pay for there's these deposits, there's all these. So I'm getting out of recovery, out of treatment. I feel like I'm doing recovery, and then I'm starting myself in the hole, like no money. So I'm working. It was just, it's frustrating to see. And then there's the ones, we won't even talk about ones that aren't aligned with M.A.S.H because there's so many of those where you're walking into the house everybody's using. That's where you're going to go get your hit. So environment, and I did post a link to this fantastic article that talks about why your environment is crucial. And in fact, it doesn't matter how willing you are for anything, it will get you. It will get you at the end of the day what your environment looks like. So, Eric, what do you see? So now you're... I want to say it's liaison for M.A.S.H, right? So what do you do? Let's just talk about what do you do? How are you associated with M.A.S.H? And go ahead. Sorry.
So on that question, I was recently elected the Resident Advisory Council Chair, and it's something that we have a vision for. We're still trying to put it together and what that would look like. I guess if you put together almost a simple example, because it's K.I.S.S, it would be maybe like a union where the people, the residents, past residents, and even family of residents start to collaborate, have a voice, and we're able to, if something is in a written document from M.A.S.H or if there's something going on, we can approach it as a voice, a group, and organized so that, again, we don't hear rumors or things out there. We're actually discussing it as people in recovery. And that could mean people who have successfully transitioned through. It can be family who have witnessed their, family transition through a sober house or a recovery house, I'm sorry. And just try to get everyone at least somewhere on the same page. And I'll hand it back to you, but I would like to get into some of those things you said too.
Yeah. Okay, so real quickly. So, again, I really commend that there's M.A.S.H even exists. Okay, because that at least gives me some hope. Looking at the M.A.S.H website, there's a whole list of things that they have to follow. Anyone has to follow to even get their name on that M.A.S.H list, right? So I appreciate all these things. However, there's so many. There's so much room for people to manipulate and find those loopholes. One of the things I wanted to ask you about is I found it interesting. So the house management, anybody that manages these sober houses for M.A.S.H, they have to take a sober housing workshop. Are you familiar with this workshop, and what does that actually entail?
Great question, Bridge, because I was actually one of the, I guess, leaders for this last group of managers that go through for training. And we go through ethics of how we should practice in the house. We go through scenarios of things that can happen in the house when someone maybe goes back to reuse, when there's big arguments in the house, how to handle urinalysis, or how to, if a UA comes back and shows that the person may have gone back to reuse. And, instead of, and even trying to change the language, with the managers and everything. But we go through quite a bit of things. We get to hear from, a lot of times it could be, we heard from a police officer one time to talk about sober living. We heard from psychologists that were able to come in and talk about things of what people go through, and signs and symptoms that we can look for so that we're better at what we do inside the house, but also not ruling with an ironclad judge's gavel, which I don't like either.
Okay, that just reminds me of one of the horror stories I heard. One of my friends, Dan, I won't give his last name, it made me sad. Now, it isn't current. This happened a couple years ago, but he was staying in a house. He did have a reuse. They literally, so he came home, I don't even know what time it was at night, dead of winter. And he's not from here, by the way, so he failed it without question. Okay, I'm sorry. I actually was on the color wheel, and there was a couple times my thing came up that I was using, which it wasn't. And I had to retake it later at a later time, and it proved that it was not accurate. But without question, without taking even make him retake it or wait until supervisor. It was late at night. They kicked him out on the street that night in the winter. He had to walk blocks to a bus station. He slept there until it was daytime, and he could get a hold of. So I'm just thinking, and again, I don't know if that house was even aligned with M.A.S.H. So I don't it very much scares me. So when M.A.S.H and these sober house owners come together, I looked at the website, so you can have complaints, right? And again, I guarantee, you just go on Google, you see the reviews. There's a lot of complaints that are silliness. But do they take the complaints seriously? Do you know? And especially, I find that a lot of times, I've been in many different positions, they get brushed aside because they hope a lot of times people will nothing will come of it, which usually happens. But a lot of complaints aren't taken seriously. And I wonder if, what does it take to get something escalated? I'm putting myself in the position of, I'm a resident there, and I'm seeing that I hear a lot of bad stories. You're a great guy, Eric, so I try not to, I hope you're not taking anything I say personally. A lot of really cruel, unfair, judgmental, cliquey house managers that get this little bit of power, and they run with it. And if they don't like you for a personal reason, they're on your case. So with the complaints and stuff, do they even take that? So do you know, I know you're just a representative or whatever, but in M.A.S.H, are you able to say, now this is a complaint that I know they've filed or whatever, I know that I'm hearing about, what's the action? Do they take that stuff seriously? Especially if it's something where, here's the thing. A lot of time, I think all of it should be taken seriously because it's life or death out there right now with, us in recovery and residents. So is it worth filing a complaint? And, especially what if it's you have a problem with the house manager or you have a problem with the owner? Well, I specifically know an owner of a few houses, and she is so corrupt in her mind, and she's not in recovery. She's very judgmental. And it makes all the houses know it's like a toxic environment, and you wouldn't know that up front. So what do you say when someone's having issues or when there's like several complaints? Like, what does it take to really get that heard or something done about it or actual change?
So I would just first off be kind of clear on this that I became the elected resident advisory council chair, and we're still working through how to put this all together. And I have attended meetings with the owners of M.A.S.H, and I can tell you that one, they're all voluntarily in the M.A.S.H organization, which just stands for, if no one knows, the Minnesota Association of Sober Housing. And I would tell you the owners I met truly care about the residents in there. I mean, could there be one or, some that slip through? There can. What I can tell you about the complaints is, it explains how to go through it on the website itself. I think part of it, I try to educate anyone that lives in our houses too, what we can do if they didn't like it or who they can talk to. But M.A.S.H does address it. It goes directly to somebody who's not affiliated right here. But I'm not.
First alarm. Sorry. Keep going.
I'm not truly involved to know enough to answer it specifically. I can answer it on what the purpose of this resident advisory council is going to be. And it's going to be to address issues like that. I can tell you that I don't personally train. I do not ever even think about it, that if somebody goes back to reuse, first off, there's an opportunity to go get another test done. We have a place, St. John's, where you can do it immediately, and sometimes it may be a cross-contamination from something with the medication. But I have never personally, even through reuse with me, and I don't train it to the other managers, I don't train it to anyone outside the houses. When I talk to other managers, I've been to the conferences at M.A.S.H and NAR and all these, is we will do everything that we can do to find a safe place. And whatever that looks like, it could be a detox facility, it could be a family member, it could be the hospital, it could be a hotel, whatever it is, unless that person is making that decision and they are not being cooperative at all, or as I did in my past when I would get drunk or extremely high, if I became violent, and that a police officer could be called. But at no point am I just going to open the door, throw clothes out, and let them go. And could it have happened a few years ago? I've heard of incidences where it happened, and I also know M.A.S.H addressed those because I haven't heard of them happening recently. And we talk about that a lot in the training of what do you do when this situation arises. And it can be, reaching out to another manager in the organization, reaching out to the owner. I'm not in a position to answer, what about an owner that may have this? I don't know if they're in M.A.S.H. I don't know if they're not. I can tell you that M.A.S.H is a very small percentage of the sober living in the Twin City metro area and further out. And I don't know if anyone truly knows the number. I think to give people the fairest shot right now in recovery living is to at least start with the M.A.S.H site itself. At least that people have volunteered to get their houses inspected, to volunteer their time for recovery. They're passionate about recovery. But also, I'm a person, if you call up and you want to live in a recovery residence, I say, would you like to come see the house?
Yeah.
And if it's for some reason it's not their fit, we're also the place that would say, here's a recommendation for you. But I think sometimes people get stuck into, okay, you need to go to ABC, so, recovery house. And that's their one option, but that really isn't your option. You have other options. There's a list out there to choose from, and the prices do vary. And I think, the idea of the Resident Advisory Council is that whether you're in a house that costs a little less with shared rooms or costs a little more with a single room, that the recovery experience needs to be similar. So.
Okay. Now done with the mean questions. Okay. So looking on the website, though, I do like that they do have a lot of example like documents, so you can at least kind of be on a consistent, outline for guidelines or whatever for everybody else. But I love, so there's obviously training because there actually is mat friendly sober housing, which I thought was wonderful. So I'm just going to read what it said on the website. It said requirements to maintain your sobriety. Attend at least, 3 12-step meetings a week, meet with a 12-step sponsor, attend weekly house meetings, maintain a full-time job, perform weekly house chores, but I love that there's like specific ones for medically assisted treatment. There's so many sober houses out there. Like I had a guy who is in a severe motorcycle accident. He's so lucky to even have survived that. Okay, I had him all lined up to get into this place. Okay. And it looked like a perfect men's program. Like everything was wonderful. He was excited. The guy was excited. Turns out because he was still on a prescribed medication for pain, they turned him down. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, his arm is he's still waiting on surgery right now. Like detached. Like he needs his medication. And he was like, well, I could just stop. Like I'll just stop taking him. Like, no, you're not. I'm going to find you someplace else. So that's why, again, Eric, it's great that you brought that up, that you do get a choice. And that's why if you align with a CPRS, a certified peer recovery specialist, right, we will do that work for you. So let me erase that. We will help and guide you along those lines. So you're not alone. And so, you can get those, feel like someone's going to back you up, but never feel pressured into, whatever. Because yes, the house, I think you get what you pay for a lot of times. But also, yes, I think it's important to go in, see these houses, meet these managers, and at the end of the day, your environment it could set you up either for success or not success. So I forgot. So the alarm went off. Martin says, hello, K.I.S.S Recovery. Sounds like a bunch of talk. We need action. Yes. Okay, so final question I wanted to ask you, and then I'm going to play this really awesome clip because I want to flip the script, because at the end of the day, especially if you got court stuff that I had, that you're ordered to do things, okay, you kind of get put in a situation and really realizing what I can control and what I can't control. So especially if I'm in a housing situation and a lot of things are not in my control, I had to change my mindset. I really did. I had to. I'm glad. I repeat this all the time, but I'm glad a lot of people in my life now didn't meet me 3 years ago, because I had to be angry and mad and not a person to be around, but I had to set that mindset of I'm going to do the things I need to do for me. Old bridge is dead. Nice bridge who cares about what everybody thinks, takes care of everybody else, doesn't want to be mean, had to be mean. And I had to say, no, this is what I need to do to get my recovery on a positive note. So yeah, we're going to play that clip. And one thing that stood out in this article, we'll get to as well. But if listeners, again, if you have any questions, Eric's here. He's really, he's really involved with M.A.S.H. And like I said, he can bring up those hot topics. But the one thing I was wondering, and you probably might not know the answer right now, but I'm wondering if there's a way we could propose this idea to M.A.S.H. Now, Eric, just tell me if I'm flying off the handle here, okay? So I wonder if there's a way that they can calculate, like there can be some kind of outline, a fair outline that calculates the cost of the house, the cost of like rent, food, utilities, that could be a standard for what is being charged. You know what I mean? Because I feel like it sucks this place is only $400, but you're in a shithole, where another place could be $900. Well, myself could not even afford that. So I wonder if there's a way to propose. Is that possible? Okay, so who can attend like these M.A.S.H. meetings? How often do they happen? Are they open to the public, or is there a way people can get involved or submit something to you guys to talk about?
So again, I'm a newly elected resident advisory council chair, and I don't know all the inner workings. What I do know is the inner workings of the recovery house that I'm a part of, and it's something that I would recommend people submit to M.A.S.H. There's the website's there. There's forms to fill out, and they take everything very seriously. I can't envision the your idea, Bridge. I think that's too hard based on there's just so many different things that go involved between demographics, what the houses offer. I mean, it just goes, the list goes on. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, there couldn't be a cap or something, but I think to try to say, all right, this house has, 15 guys and this house has 8 guys, that the cost is going to be a little different. That's just kind of, how it go. It would be that way if I was to have a three bedroom house and I said, it's just going to be me and Bridge as a roommate. So it costs us each $900, but we both decide let's get another roommate, and should it go down a little bit? I don't know. I mean, it's very tough. There's so many things offered, and I'm part of a very special organization. So I just don't know enough to say any opinion on like the inner workings in that. I know M.A.S.H is a great organization for what they do, and like any place, there's good, there's some bad, and I think part of it is just the education out there of recovery housing and how to go about it, and don't feel like you're forced to take the first one because there's a lot of them.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Eric. Sorry to put you on the spot. No. This is something that was... Okay. So that was the hot seat alarm, but I'm going to play this clip quick, and then we'll jump right into the hot seat because I think these questions kind of align. So if you go to... it's a motivational speech. It's Ben Lionel Scott's channel. It's Prove Everyone Wrong. So this motivated me on so many levels. But again, coming into recovery, I had nobody. And nobody that gave a damn about me. Nobody believed in me. Everyone was done with I'm sorry's and just at the end of the day, talking shit all the time. So I just had to tune them out. And then there I was. And so, I love that geographical change. You tried to move here, there, change things, but who's always there, Eric? Yourself, me. So working on that. So here we go. 4 minutes.
When everybody is against you or don't believe in you no more, it's a lonely feeling. Oh, it hurts very badly. I know what that's like. They look at you with that look and say, why don't you try something else? Why don't you give up?
Get away from these people that's in your life that ain't doing nothing. Get away from people in your life that's hating. Get away from them. Get away from them. If you take an oak tree seed and you put it in a 2-foot pot, that seed will never become the oak tree that oak trees are capable of becoming because it's gonna get stifled by the 2-foot pot. Now check this out. Ain't nothing wrong with the seed. The seed just fell prey to the environment. Don't you allow your environment to dictate the oak tree that you become.
Anytime you move from being normal to trying to be exceptional, people aren't gonna like that shit. Those normal people, it makes them feel like shit, so they're gonna judge you.
And that's why every true leader, they're called weird, they're called eccentric. When you do the things of real leadership, you're gonna be called strange. Get strong enough in your own skin that when people laugh at you or when they throw stones at you, you keep on going.
I respect any motherfucker that wakes up every day and work their ass off to live their life and lifestyle. Clubbing, partying, hanging out, that ain't for me. I'm gonna be out here running in the hot sun, practicing. While everybody else is clubbing and hanging out, you got your focus right.
Don't expect people to understand you. Don't expect it to make sense to anybody why you've got to do this, why you have got to go, why you leave. This is a good job. I'm going. They pay you well. I'm going. Why? I don't understand. You don't have to. I'm going for me. This is something I have got to do. How are you going to make it? I don't know, but I will. The universe responds to the man or woman that refuses to be denied, because that is your commitment. That business that you want, that book you want to write, that dream that you have of controlling your destiny, that is yours. That's available to you. But you got to be willing to stand there and face disappointment, not have support, be lonely, doubt yourself sometimes, be rejected again and again and again, become bankrupt if necessary, again and again and again, and refuse to turn around until life gives it up. Life will always be, to a large extent, what you make it, not what circumstances will make of it, not what other people will make of it, not what other people say it will be, not what the environment will try and dictate to you, but what you make of your life. So when you're uncommon, get ready for the criticism. When you're uncommon, get ready for the opposition. When you're uncommon, get ready for the common people not to understand you. If I decided to experience the fear of rejection, the fear of no, the fear of failure, the fear of standing by myself, the fear of people not liking me, what else is available? Of taking a chance, a fear of losing all. What else is available to me? People are going to think you're crazy. You don't have nothing but lint in the corner of your pockets. You're out here talking about living your dream. And people are laughing at you. And they're doubting you. It takes guts, ladies and gentlemen. But let me tell you, I believe in revenge like Frank Sinatra. He said the best revenge is massive success.
Instead of killing them with kindness, torture them with success.
Oh my gosh, Eric. Does that get you going?
Yeah.
I want to listen to that every day. Seriously. Okay, I'll just go ahead. Any thoughts that come to you right away when you listen to that?
My mind started to wander when he brought up the oak tree, the kind of the roots, and you know where my recovery the journey has gone. That when I first started this, we were in a bunch of sand, and I was the guy that I can promise you everyone said he's not going to make it in the house. 20 days, he'll be gone. And I started discovering that being around people and then the house itself, as we talked and as it grew, my roots grew stronger, and the house started to evolve into its own place with the guys. Outside the manager, outside the owners, we started to take ownership in the house together. That's what started to make the house special and have it turn. And I just thought about those roots and how deep they became and intertwined with everyone else. So one tree became 2 trees, and 2 trees became 3 trees, and 3 trees became 4. And it all was starting to intertwine. And that was based on the guys in the house, not based on the owner and not based on the house manager, who, needless to say, I did not like right away, because I was the person who walked in the house and told you how to change everything to fit my needs. But it started with the guys, a small group of guys in the house that decided recovery is number one, and how can we support each other? And outside the owner, outside the management, it got better. And that's what brought me down this. And, you know, I appreciate Martin's comment that, you know, a lot of talk and the action part. It's coming. It just, you know, like anything, when new things come about, Bridge brought up M.A.H and all those things. She has my mind just reeling over here. And I have lots of things on it. I'm a huge supporter of harm reduction. I'm a huge supporter of the 12 steps. And I think they both have a place. Do they have a place together, the abstinent-based house and the M.A.T or the medically assisted treatment? I don't know. That's very hard. The stigma on the other end is extreme. And that can cause problems in a house on its own right. And it has to be respected by both parties, you know. And, you know, I guess if I had advice to owners, I would separate them. That's what I would do. Because, you know, we all have a journey, but sometimes that journey doesn't mix on that end. But, you know, that I'm going to listen to that tomorrow too.
Yes, actually, that brings up a good point, because no matter what, human nature, though we need connection, we always want to separate and be unique. And I found that, actually, someone you know, I won't say her name, but she was telling me how, you know, they were in a M.A.S.H treatment center, and the people taking Suboxone and the people taking methadone both hated each other. Both were jealous of each other. Both were talking shit about each other. So you can't win, you know. But again, it's all about self-awareness and self-acceptance And again, when your environment isn't ideal, connecting with an Eric or connecting with a B or connecting with someone you trust and can connect with. And, for me, it just took that one person to give me that unconditional support. That was all I needed. All the other things in my environment didn't matter. I wouldn't let them bring me down anymore. Just having that one person have my back was what I needed to, get on the recovery thing and not give a damn what anyone else said. So, okay, we can't hesitate on this anymore. Let's see if this is going to work here. Oop. Do you love that? Look at that. Does it look scary? Sound scary? Because it's the hot seat. Eric, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. It took me forever and a day to find a sound that actually sounded like fire. Everyone's like, what is that crackling popcorn? It was not funny. But now it's great. I have to play it every time. Okay, Eric, are you ready? So the hot seat is 3 hot, heavier, deeper questions. Well, I think they are. But a lot of times, some of my guests are like, oh, that was nothing. And then a couple of my guests got emotional. I got emotional. I'm like, woo, maybe I shouldn't ask that. But just so you know, it's whatever you feel comfortable answering. But take a minute. Like, don't rush it and don't feel just your truth. Your truth. Okay, question number 1, Eric. Oh, this was a favorite one. I just asked somebody else this. What's your kryptonite? And by kryptonite, if you're a fan of Superman, what is your weakness? What's something or a person or a thing that, no matter how strong you are, where you sit today, there's this weakness, this kryptonite. What comes to your mind?
Well, first I'll let you know, Bridge showed me a picture of a fire burning, so I knew it was coming. But Bridge, I love you as a friend and you're a great person, but if you want my kryptonite, I will let you know it's women.
Oh.
That is my kryptonite. I have a huge problem with self-esteem. I try to overcompensate by maybe going above and beyond and doing way too many things to please them and sacrifice my feelings. I put myself in situations with them that where I put myself second all the time and my recovery isn't first anymore. I try to be, I'm not maybe over loving. I try to be that, try to get the feeling back from her that maybe I missed as a kid from my own mother. Or the fact that I failed as a husband to my wife. I also failed as a father for many years to my daughter. So there's a lot of overcompensating that I do. And, during my journey, God, my higher power, I'm very open about that. And I figure at some point, God will let me know when I'm ready for that. But at right now in my life and through my life, when I look back at when I used, when I, maybe started to underperform at work, maybe when I did anything, there was always a woman involved because I felt like there was a hole inside of me that only a woman could fill. And I'm starting to realize that women can fill that hole, but as on a different level today in recovery, as a friendship, supporting each other, watching, helping in different areas, but not looking for that one, miraculous thing to fill it with where I start to sacrifice Eric. And I know it affected my marriage and I've never been good at a relationship. So that is my kryptonite.
That was very unexpected and I love it. And I totally get that. And actually my heart goes out to you because yes, there's lots of good females out there, but there's lots of not good females out there. And the awareness, the fact that you're aware of that, and hopefully you have friends that you can connect with. So, wow, that's a great answer. We're going to talk after the show though, Eric. I got you. I'm in a relationship with myself right now and it's fabulous. But I almost worry that I'm too cold, too in love with myself that now I might end up with just a house full of cats. It's just okay. But I don't want to be okay with that. Okay, great answer. Moving forward, question number 2. Eric, who pushes your buttons or knows how to push your buttons? It could be whatever comes to your mind.
Absolutely great question, Bridge, because for most of my life, I was a robot. And what I mean by that is I wore on my chest buttons. I wore hate and anger and love and passion and intimacy. All of them were there. The buttons were showing. And I allowed people to push those buttons. People would get to know me and they could push jealousy. They could push hate and anger. And through recovery today, who knows my buttons? I have dealt so hard and turned my life so much over to, and you guys have heard it at meetings, to the care of God as I understand Him, or turn my will over, that my buttons, I don't have buttons that one person can push anymore. If there's an issue that comes up, I take that one moment, and that one moment can be 1 second. But I've had conversation with my ex-wife who called me drunk and got into a discussion about my son and how I was through his life, and I've made amends to my son. And surprisingly, that was the moment I realized those buttons disappeared. And I don't have the pride and the ego that someone can say, well, you did this and you did that, because I've owned my part in it all. I've owned the things I did, so that, there's that saying, my scars tell you where I've been, but they're not going to dictate where I'm going. And the only way I can do that is by accepting what I did, and the buttons disappear. If somebody, wants to call me a jerk or something like that from the past, that's not a button anymore, because truthfully I was. But who am I today? And I know in my heart who I am today, and it's a different person. It's the person that I can tell you that God has always meant me to be. So there isn't anyone left out there that can push a button on me, and that's the truth.
Oh, I love that. 100%. And I think for me, why I struggled so long is that shame button was right there. And those people that I trusted the most, or was in love with, or thought loved me, they knew that shame button, and I would let that succumb to that. So that's beautiful. But yes, that awareness of, I'll be coming up on 3 years. And so for me, that shame button's gone. You can say whatever you want to say. I just look at their eyes. We both know you're full of shit. And what is this really about? I know it's about them. So, yeah. Okay, last question, Eric. And then we're going to jump in. We just heard the last one. See how fast this goes. We only got 15 minutes left. Ooh, and we got to get to Martin's comment there. Question number 3, final question for the hot seat, Eric. Oh, okay. So I am a little bit of the anti-gratitude, okay? For me, holidays are not fun, okay? Never had family, don't have family. I have my kiddos, and they have their families, and that's great. But for me, especially new in recovery, I hated the gratitude meetings. I hate when people are like, you need to list out the things you're grateful for. Well, what if you don't have shit? You came from shit, and you want me to pull gratitude right out of my ass? So I'm serious. I'm not like that anymore. I have lots of things I'm grateful for, and I do check in at night and list those things out. But I don't like when people tell me I have to do that. Anyway, I got this great grievance journal. So there's this great article I've talked about before. But so when you're in a place where you're not feeling so grateful, go ahead and list out it's called ingratitude list. So things that are pissing you off right now. And I found that to be really great because, again, it kind of comes up with the same solution, though. Listing out those things that made me upset, that are going on in my relationships, that are going on in my job or whatever. But then getting those out was like this relief, right? Writing that down or talking about it. But then it allowed space for gratitude. Much quicker anyway. So the last question, Eric, is fantastic. It actually comes from the book. And I already started writing it. Question number 3, Eric. What are you dreading? So it goes on to say a daunting work assignment, a difficult conversation. What's on your docket that you'd rather not deal with?
Mind you, she has a book that is black and with white and skulls on it that says Grievance Journal. A burn book for the discerning.
Mistopstrophe?
Yeah.
I don't know how to say that.
Misanthropy. I can't pronounce it either. But it's a great question you brought up. And what am I dreading? It used to be my life. Used to be where I was going to sleep. Used to be where I was going to get some money. And as things have gone through, what I am dreading the most right now is my daughter. So 2 years ago, on my last bender, around Christmas, almost 2 years to the day today, December 20th, I found out not only was I not I was an absent father quite a few times, going to jail, and one time being sentenced to a higher incarceration level up in New Hampshire for a year. And so I was in and out of her life. But her mother called me, and she was being groomed on social media during COVID, the start of it, and over a year period before that. And her mom put the burden on me, and at the time I hadn't talked to her very much, so I got the FBI and police involved. And they took her laptop, they took her phone, they took all those things. And I didn't look back at it now, but I also looked at all the things that I took from her because I wasn't around. I didn't understand why she felt that way, and I've been reaching out for quite a while, little bits and pieces of information here or there. Or they wanted to move from New Hampshire to Florida, and old Eric would have fought that, and Eric said, yeah, if that's where she's going to be happy, let's do that, but still hadn't talked to her. And really been dreading that conversation when it comes about. And the holidays have always been tough. It's not something I looked forward to, having a son and a daughter from two different women. And my son was used heavily as a weapon of mass destruction. And I, in turn, reacted badly and chose drinking and drugs. And I thought that's what the holidays meant. As I go through this, and with my daughter, my son, I've made amends. My son's doing incredible. I could brag about him all day. But my daughter, everyone has that door they don't want to open, and I'm afraid to open it. And then I started reaching out again a week ago, and I got to tell you, I got filled with joy the other day, and she texted me back. So the door is open, but I'm not. There's not the. It's weird because there's a dread, but there's also a gratefulness and a joyfulness and a sense of calming peace that this is the time. Otherwise, it would have happened before, but I don't think either one of us was ready. And maybe where I was at in my journey, it wouldn't have worked. And it might have been something as simple as, no, we didn't move. And yeah, gift cards and I like gold on the text. It's okay, because to me, just having the handle turn, I don't have to even see through the crack of the door. But that is a dread, of I need to answer, to her. I've answered to God and to myself, but, a lot of things affected her. And she is a fabulous young woman at 15 years old here shortly. But, yeah, it's surprising you brought that up, because I've been thinking about it for the last day. But when she reached out, there's dread, but there's also joy mixed in. So, because I know that I'm in a different place, and, I ordered some Christmas stuff for her, and maybe the small token, I got a necklace. She wanted some jewelry. It has a little pearl on it, but it comes in a frame with an apology statement. Maybe opens the door a little bit. It's nothing too heavy, but enough to say I kind of know what I did. And hopefully we can talk when the future goes forward.
Yeah. Oh, that was a beautiful answer, Eric. I'm not even going to say anything or I'll get emotional. I just think that the fact that, yeah, you're right. You got that message back. And then, yeah, I've been in situations where I didn't expect things to go at all where they went, and the doors open, and I'm like, nah, I don't know if I want to, My sister's one that recently, all I did was heart a message she sent back in June. But just her response was nothing much, but right away I'm like, nope, not ready. I'm going to just stand back over here for a minute. But I wanted in that moment for her to see that I did see that message, and it was one tiny little smidge of her, except her part. But at least I hearted it, and I do miss her. But I'm not ready to have those conversations, because until I feel like she's ready to really be honest, because it's been 3 long years of very hard work on myself, Eric. And I'm not going to put time and energy into something if she's not even trying to open that train up. So, okay, wonderful. Well, we're going to go to the last segment. Let's see. Martin said there's a lot of work to be done in recovery housing. A cap needs to be looked at. Let's not kick those seeking recovery while they are down. I've seen this happening here in Wyoming as a housing case manager to many corrupt owners. Sorry, just a subject I'm very passionate about. Yes, Martin, 100%. And again, like Eric, I'm thankful there's people like you and owners that, own your houses that actually do care. And, that's again why I'm just thankful there is M.A.S.H and there is something in place and not knocking it, like, I definitely, if I have an opportunity, like really I'm at this stage in my life where I'm really only putting my time and energy into stuff that I'm passionate about. So, at least I have you as a connection, but I got a lot of shit on my plate right now, Eric. But definitely, of course, if there's ever something that comes up that, I'm just trying to align myself with things where I feel like I would be most useful. But I would say to anyone out there, if you want to align with M.A.S.H and feel like you could help, I don't want to encourage people to go in there and start bitch. Like if you could put your things on the table, but you got to show up too and be willing to do the things because everybody wants to complain. Nobody wants to do the work. Okay. Moving on to my favorite segment. Eric, this is what I look forward to. It is 8:54. I feel like most of the memes that are going to be popping up. So this segment's called Live Facebook Memes. And what that really just means is, through the week, I screenshot my favorite memes for whatever reason, funny or an aha or just makes a really good point. I screen and we're gonna. Well, the listeners get to see them. You get to see them for the first time. You might have actually seen a couple. But like Facebook, you're going to live reaction. You can give hearts or laugh out loud, and you're free to comment as well. So I'm going to play the sound effect. My daughter was fantastic at found me these sound effects. I'm trying to make it sound more stimulating. I sent you one of my older shows. I was embarrassed. It's hard to hear because I've come a long way. And, I just learn as I go. But when you're on a tight budget of $0, you kind of have to go with what you have. And again, these free apps that I have are very annoying because they don't want to work when I work them. Oh, here we go. So lots of free ads. I just continue to have. Okay, here we go. Okay, so live Facebook meme. We got 10 of them. We could probably run through them pretty quick, but there's one particular one I want to take a few minutes on. Oh, yeah. Do you recognize that sound?
Yeah.
Just it reminds me of X-Files. Yes. It reminds me of it could be scary, mysterious, thrilling. But here we go with the memes. Are you ready, Eric? Okay. So if you can, I'm going to take off this banner. I'm going to flash them, but I do have listeners that I know for a fact do not have smartphones. And props to them. Like, honestly, that's where I'm trying to get to that point because I don't need all that distractions. But I'm going to flash you and the viewers the memes. And again, just whatever comes to mind. Feel no obligation. But if you could go ahead and describe the ones that have a picture. Okay, so I'm going to push it towards you. And if you could just describe what you're seeing there.
It says, at last, indoor plumbing. And it's a dog thinking that. And a guy walks in with the Christmas tree.
Okay, that was just cute. And I have a dog that takes care of it. He's a male. Male dogs. Oh, they tick me off, man. Because, they're just holding it so they can mark up stuff all over the place. But he's actually good. But, yeah, this hit me really hard because, I don't know what it is, but it affected me daily. Okay, here we go. Just words.
Never seen anyone jogging and smiling, so that's all I need to know about that.
What would you say about that one? Any comments?
Ditto.
Yes. Thank you. Right? It is so true. And I loathe exercise, Eric. I really do. I like to do stuff that's active, but do not tell me it's exercise. Otherwise my brain's like, nope, not doing this anymore. Okay. Meme number 3.
There's an egg in a nest that says, if an egg is broken by an outside force, life ends. If an egg If broken by an inside force, life begins. Great things always begin from the inside. Wow, deep. Wow. I guess that's where Eric's life started at 50 years old, 49.
Yeah.
Being cracked from the inside.
And that's I just love that because that's true. Like, yeah, when I allowed outside people, outside things to get to me, like I feel like I am completely a different person. But I needed to let go of that person that I thought I was and really doing the work inside. You know, they always say it's an inside job and it's hard and it's brutal. But when you have those recovery families surrounding and loving you no matter what, you know, it is possible. Okay, next one. Oh, are you familiar with Burning Man? Okay, it's 2 sculptures.
Yes, I am. So it's 2 sculptures. It looks like maybe, I don't know,
like
a boy and a
wire
girl
frame.
or wire frame around it. There's a person sitting with their head down in their lap, and the other person's got their head down farther in their lap with their hands crossed around their forehead. And it says,
Back to back.
yeah, back to back. And
Inside
of them is 2 people looking like they're trying to reach out to each other and can't. So I guess that would be my relationships right there too. But I've always tried reaching out, but our backs were to each other and didn't want anything to do with it. Yeah. One of the most powerful art pieces from Burning Man, a sculpture of 2 adults after a disagreement, sitting with their backs to each other. Yet the inner child in both of them simply wants to connect. Age has many beautiful gifts, but one we could live without is pride and resentment. We hold on to them when we have conflicts with others. The forgiving, free spirit of children is our true nature. Remember, this is when you feel stubborn. And I will say this, it is truly beautiful. And I'll let you in on a little piece of Eric's life. I have a special need older brother. And he is his inner child. And I've realized through growing that he has a gift that I want. I can't imagine being in your 50s and waking up for Christmas like you were at 10 years old.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what a gift.
Definitely.
What a gift. The inner child. He can't lie. He doesn't have it in him. He always tells you the truth. But that picture brings memories of me and my brother up. That's so.
Yeah. Well, that's why, you know, the innocence of childhood, you know, you don't have life that came in and ruined everything. Made you judgmental. Okay, sorry. Next meme. It's irrelevant. It just looks like a guy looking a little perturbed at his phone, like, what the hell is this? And what is this phone text, or what is he saying in the meme? Here.
Waking up to 75 missed calls and the iconic "Have a nice life" text because you took a nap.
You took a nap. Have you ever had anything similar?
I have, but my nap was for 3 days. I think it's called a blackout.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, if this happens to me, Eric, I'm a busy person, okay? And I always tells people, especially if I'm working with them one-on-one, like, leave a message, you know, or text me. I will get back to you, but you see what I'm doing right now? See, I always put my phone down. You see how we're talking and my phone's off and I'm not looking at it? I do that sometimes, a lot of times, especially if I'm driving. So calm down, but I've had people that, you know, there's a real thing called phone addiction, okay? And I'll get paragraphs and texts, and they're wanting to end things, and they're wanting to, you know, explain to me why I'm such a bad person. And the meeting went long. You know, there's the meetings before the meetings, there's the meetings after the meetings. Like, I'm invested, I'm there, and yeah. So it's interesting, and really, a lot of times, all I have to do is pick up the phone and say, "Hey, so sorry. You know, my car lately has been having issues too, so I had this issue. Like, calm down, God." And a lot of people, you know, if that's all it takes is a few hours, and you want to be done with me, hey, go ahead, take your space, you be done. But I'll be here if you want to come back. Okay, me number 6.
Bunch of it's Christmas string of lights. It says I'm like Christmas lights, complicated and absolute fucking mess.
Yes.
But once you've figured me out, I'm festive and quite pleasant.
And very pleasant. What do you think?
Yeah, that's, yeah.
I think that describes a lot of us. We look complicated, and, you know, especially Christmas lights. Oh, God, they're such a nightmare if you didn't pack away correctly. Or you did, and one kid pulls them out. It's all done. But once you figured it out and get it on the tree or wherever, hang it up on the windows, it's so beautiful and pleasant. Okay, it says a lot more than, underlying things. Here we go. The cute little kid.
A little kid sitting on the couch, and his arms are folded in front, and it says, "Me sitting and doing nothing because I have too many things to do."
Do you ever have those moments?
Oh, yes.
Oh my gosh. Just like I've done that. And I'll have to catch myself. Like, literally, I just feel like there's so much to do. I'm just not going to do anything right now. I'm going to meditate for a minute or just listen to a song or just calm down. Because, I know once I get back out to do all the things, I'll be doing all the things again. Yes. Okay.
I was once told by someone, they said, "Eric, instead of getting stressed and anxiety and listening to all these other things, remember this. Sometimes you just need to stand still in order to move forward."
Love that. And things are going to come to you if you let them, if you're around for them. Okay, meme number 8. Just words. Oh, this is great.
Every family has one weird relative. If you don't know who it is, then it's probably you.
Yes, definitely.
It is.
Well, yeah, I already knew that they considered me the weird one. But honestly, I could definitely call them out. But I never did, so they just went ahead and just called me that. But let me tell you, I could have been very, very cruel. Okay, here we go. Second to last. Oh, okay. Let's just take some time on this one. So this is my favorite. It's my circle of control. It's hard to see. Hopefully you can see it. Get close on it. So things that are in my control. So in the circle, things that you, myself, anybody can control. What are those things?
The amount of effort I put in, my words, my actions, how I treat others, whether or not I follow rules, how I handle my feelings, my decisions, and how I take care of myself. Things are in my control, and how I show up. Things that are out of my control. What other people do, things from the past, because it'll never change. That past, it's always the past. You can't change the story. Other people's choices, what other people say, ouch, how other people feel, and the weather.
Did you like that?
Yes, I like that.
Seriously, the weather can really affect a lot of things. So, but yes, 100%, and especially the things like, I think like where my biggest things that would set me up to fail is really did care what other people thought about me. Because I knew I was a good person, and if at any point they felt I did them wrong or I wasn't a good person, I wanted to go out of my way to defend myself, or and now what I'm realizing is, especially now that I'm really putting myself out there more, there's always going to be those haters no matter what. So all I know is within myself, if I know I'm doing the best I can, I'm doing the next right thing, what I feel is right in my heart and soul, I don't give a fucks what anybody else thinks. But if they want to have a conversation, and I've had a couple conversations, I respect the people that we can sit aside and we can have those deep conversations and we can agree to disagree, but we have a dialogue, not a debate. And I find that 9 times out of 10, when they don't want to have that conversation, why do you think that is, Eric? It's because they know they're full of shit. Okay. And final meme, my favorite.
Oh, there's looks like a person with a backpack just kind of looking off in the distance and says, "Reminder, often people are the least lovable when they need love the most." Oof. Wow, that's deep.
Yeah. And wouldn't you say, like, when someone comes into housing, they might start off kind of unlovable?
They come in defensive, and, I try to, just break the barrier by sharing some of who I am and where I was and things like that. But it also reminds me of, I did outreach at a library for homeless. And then there was a young lady who came in, and she looked rough. Looked like maybe she had been in a fight or something. And I still get tears when I think about it. But I tried to talk to her, and I couldn't get her to talk. And finally, after just kind of sharing of who I was and where I was, I just asked, What can I do to help? Is there anything I can do? And she goes, if you can help me just be seen again, that's all I ever want, was just to be seen.
Yeah.
And that truly changed a big path in my life when it came to when someone says, hey, how are you doing? I'll say, hey, Bridge, how are you? And if they say, good, well, what's so good about it? What's going on? Or try to dig a little deeper, not just that surface good or how was your day? All right. Oh, well, how come it was only all right?
Yeah.
Let her be seen and heard and let her know that, we care about how people feel. And she changed my whole outlook on doing outreach. That I wasn't there to just speak and tell people what I could offer them. Some of them just wanted to be seen and heard.
That's beautiful. And that's so true. And I feel like I've learned so much just in this last year, especially doing the one-to-one and peer support. Is I find most of the times people I work with, which was me, I didn't have anybody I could talk to about my shit. Nobody. Court was after me. My ex was after me. People were recording shit. I had character witnesses gonna go after me, which I thought were my friends. So I didn't trust anybody. So when I found that one person, and later many more, all I wanted was that safe space to just really be myself and say what I really was feeling or going through or whatever, and knew, that it was going to stay there. So I feel like that's why connection is so key. Okay, go back, see if there's any final comments. Nope. Okay, well, listeners, thank you so much for joining us. Before we end, though, Eric, I do have a couple people right now that wanted me to ask you. So when someone calls you, okay, let's say you actually have openings at your fantastic housing opportunity there. What would you say should be some first initial questions, aside from like how much is it going to cost and, guidelines? Like what are specific things you think someone just new going through this list should ask every house that they are looking up? Like what would be some important questions that pretty much right out the gate they can say, oh, this is going to work for me or this isn't going to work for me? Do you have any ideas?
Yeah, general ideas be obviously age. Find out, what the house looks like as far as that, is it all 24-year-olds? Is it a mix? I'm a believer in mixing. I'm a huge believer in everyone having different experiences. I think talk about, I'd ask about space for sure. How much space do I get? And it may be a general question to them, but how much space do I get in the cupboard? How much space? If you're not able to tour the house, I think they're good questions. I think everyone that I interview or I show the house to, I show an area that's theirs. They get to own it while they're there. Because sometimes we don't have anything and we should be able to own something. So that's their space. I think you should ask about the rules and guidelines. Like when they say attend 2 meetings, what does that mean to them? Are they defining it to you to say it has to be 2 12-step meetings? Or can it be smart recovery? Could it be life recovery? Could it be, whatever that looks like? When they say spiritual service, is that church? Is that meditation? Is that Buddha? Is that yoga? Is that, whatever? What does that mean? Really get in and talk about, what it is and try to define each one. I'll define each one when asked, and when I'm not asked, I define them so we know we're on the same page. And I think a really important question to ask is, can I have a tour? Because anyone not willing to do a tour of their house is not a house I would want to go to.
Right, red flag.
And and if you're at a treatment center or you're somewhere else, it's starting to become to a point where I think only M.A.S.H approved houses will be recommended. I don't know what that looks like, but be very honest with your counselors in there. They will give you a pass because I pick people up personally from treatment centers and bring them back in an hour or two. They will give you a pass to tour that house. Tour it and see how you fit with the person. You're going to be in the car on a ride, or you're going to be in the house meeting the guys, but ask for the tour. No one's going to refuse. If they refuse it, then I wouldn't want to go there.
100%.
Well, we don't do tours. What are you hiding?
Right. That's your home is where you hang your hat, right? And you spend I mean, that should be a peaceful place, or at least have time to have that safe, peaceful place. If you don't have that, you're just setting yourself up. Yeah, that's a big red flag if they won't let you see it. Huge.
And then I think just one more would be get pretty detailed about medications, you know, of what ones they allow or don't allow. And, but really, you know, get a tour. And, you know, for those of you that are on this, and if you follow Bridge, feel free to send a message. And if you're open to it, I'll send one back. And, you know, I'm always there to contact. I'm an open book when it comes to my life, what I envision out there going on. And I know lots of places that, you know, we could find the fit into someone's life financially. But more importantly, I will always recommend reach out to, whether it's a therapist, a peer recovery specialist, or a counselor. Have that person that can walk with you through it and take some of the burden. We may not do all the work for you. We're going to recommend some things where you still have to do a little work, which creates some ownership, but we're going to help you get those tours, ask those questions, put it together with you. Mm-hmm. So don't think of them as just a peer recovery support specialist for housing and a job, but a person to help you with questions.
Yes. Yes, and what I've been doing is just having them, you know, make a pros and cons list. You know, after looking at a place, just saying, okay, what was one thing you liked and one thing that you didn't like, you know, and just having that. Because for me, if I keep stuff in my head later on, I forget, or I say, oh, it wasn't that bad, and then I get myself in a situation where, oh, wait, this was really bad. How did I forget about that? So yeah, just having that second, you know, set of eyes and views. And like I said, even if they don't, like I was able to go with my person, but even if they don't, even just calling them and say, hey, so I checked out this place, here's what I'm feeling off about it, here's what I like about it. But yeah, it's important to have somebody in your corner, right? Therapist, CPRS, whoever. So okay, everybody, thank you for listening. Next week, I forgot who the guest will be, but it'll be interesting. And I will post all the links of the resources that we may have talked about. And definitely have a great week, and I'll check in with you next week. Okay, Eric, I have great music to end with. It's just inspiring, so no matter what we talked about, I don't know, when I listen to it, I'm like, oh, I feel inspired. Here we go.